to WRPB and WRPB Studios. So the lady sitting next to me, because I'm old, I forgot where I initially met her, so she had to correct me. So Liz, and she has to make it difficult because she spells her name Lizz. Um, Millardo.
Millardo.
Okay, and you with TurnKey Financial Partners.
Yep, it's my firm.
Okay, so I didn't remember where I met you, and I'm like, okay, and then you told me I met you at the chamber.
Chamber.
At the chamber.
Yep. Yep.
And we were just talking off the air about all the people we know and
Mm-hmm.
how the chamber worked for me in the situation. But let's talk about you.
Okay.
So you're in the financial space.
I am.
Sorry to hear that. The only thing tougher than the financial space is the food space.
Correct.
Okay. So why?
Because I love helping people, to be honest. I went to school for accounting. I knew I was good with numbers. I love working with people. I love solving problems. And that was it. That's what I went into.
Okay, so you go into this. How long you been around the industry?
Almost 30 years.
Okay. So you go into this, you've been around 30 years. Like, because I'm not that smart. So what do you do in the financial space?
I specialize, well, I do a couple of things, but I like to work with small business owners and specialize in retirement planning, employee benefits, that type of thing, to serve maybe the smaller employer, right, who's too busy running their business, doing 100 different things, and just making sure that I'm taking care of them so they can take care of their business and have their finances grow and be able to retire one day.
It's almost impossible nowadays. I'm telling you,
It's
retired.
challenging.
So, what's interesting about what you're saying, and I don't think people understand.
No, they have no idea what I do.
Okay, so you do everything that we're forced to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is not our expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a day that ends because we have to go home and do payroll and all the other things.
Correct. So I think the easiest thing is when you say that. So people, they're so busy running their practice. So I like to talk about the book, The E-Myth, a little bit. It's the entrepreneur myth, right? You have to create the product, you have to sell the product, you have to take care of the product, take care of your family, you have to take care of your business. So by having a good CPA or good accountant, which I normally partner with, and I share office space with one, we're able to look at what the finances look like in the business, and I know QuickBooks inside out and upside down, and really try to find some benefits. There's tax advantages that can happen in things, because if you don't put a little nest egg aside all the time, or you don't have an exit plan or a strategy plan, then you're just going to never ever be able to retire. So we talk about succession planning, we talk about key employee, we talk about evaluating your business and being able to figure out what happens when it comes time to retire. Maybe you decide you just want to work part-time, maybe you just want to do it a day a week. So there are a lot of things that are involved. We don't have time. People don't spend a lot of time on it. We were never taught in school about finances.
That's true.
What we were taught was from our parents, our family and friends, and what we've been exposed to. And trust is an issue. Let's face it. You have money, you have a nest egg, you don't know who to trust, you don't know who to work with. And, you want somebody who can guide you, but you don't want somebody that talks over you and uses a lot of acronyms and things and explains things in a manner that you don't understand. And I find that's the biggest problem, is that people are embarrassed because they don't understand what's going on.
Right.
And they need somebody to explain it to them, to be honest with you, in English.
Excuse me. One of the things that I know, or believe I know, is that, and I'm just going to pick numbers out of my hat for a second. So let's just say that I make $5 an hour. And let's just say you charge $2 an hour. Okay? It would take me to do the things you do 5 hours. That would be $25 that I would lose. It would take you 2 hours to do what I take me 5 hours. That would be $4.
Correct.
I would save, $21 by having someone else do it right and not being frustrated. And I always say, if it's a DIY project in your mind, it's going to cost you in the long run 5 times more in the long run and 10 times more in frustration.
Right. And opportunity lost, right?
Right.
So, I study the financial markets, I build portfolios, investments. there's products that you cannot get. I'm not a product seller. I'm not commission based. I charge a fee that you can't get on the street that could be tax beneficial to you down the road. There's write-offs for long-term care insurance with S corps. There's and C corps. You can hire your children to work in your business. They don't pay Social Security under the age of 18. So there's all these different things, and I've been self-employed for about 30 years. My husband owns a business, I've owned a business, and we've owned a business together. And, it just takes time to learn all these different nuances, which the average person, if they're not exposed to it, they're not going to know what those things are or what to look for.
Absolutely.
So saving time, saving money, you don't have to, everybody's like, well, I don't have a lot of money. Well, it's starting with something and having time and being consistent with that. So in anything I do with my advice, I'm a fiduciary asset manager. So I am obligated to always put the client first, to always put their needs first, and not to put my pocket first.
What's interesting is, first of all, for someone like you have to deal with people on a very personal level.
Very personal.
And most people, I hate to say it this way, are not honest because they're scared to be honest.
Absolutely.
Okay? They're scared to trust anybody. We're in a world where you don't trust anybody. The internet's a blessing and a curse. Okay?
I agree.
And if you wanted to do if you want to have done what she does, and you think you can go online and find somebody, that's super crazy, in my opinion. Because if there's a problem and you call back that company online, you'll never get to the same person.
Right.
So that face-to-face to me is so important. I don't interview anybody unless they walk through the door here, okay? So I get that. That's stuff that I get and understand. But it's hard for people to say, hey, I've been talking that I make $1 million, but really I only make this. And the one thing I've learned is that your financial planning starts today. Meaning forget the past.
Correct.
Okay?
You can only move forward. You
Right.
can't go back.
Right. You can't go back. So those things are really, really important. And I just sat here with you for 7.5 minutes and learned that long-term care is a tax deduction. You
Yeah,
can
partial, yes.
see.
It's a partial.
I would have never
So there's
thought
partial
that.
benefit for that. And then, people say, well, long-term care insurance is expensive. And it is. It's like car insurance. But these days they make products that are blended with others so that, if you lose it, you don't lose it if you use it. And, maybe it'll pay a death benefit. Maybe you want your money back. Maybe you'll need it for care. So products have really evolved, especially around baby boomers, right? And going back to what you were saying, you have to have a relationship with your financial advisor, and it takes time.
Yep.
Some of my clients have been with me from day one, and when I take on a client, I say to them, I adopt you, right? You become part of my family. And I have to be able to put my head on the pillow at night knowing that what I did for them was the right thing to do. And you get some advisors that are just transaction based. I'm not transaction based. I'm looking at everything. And we go little by little by little. I learn about you. I learn about if you're married. I learn about your children. I make sure you put all your documents in order, in case you have a will, you need a living trust. I just make sure everything's taken care of for you. So God forbid something happens to you down the road, they have a place to go to or someone to talk to help them guide them through the process. I get hired a lot by men who want me to help their wives because usually men are average, usually they pass away before women, or maybe sometimes the husband is a little bit older than the wife.
I'm not going anywhere. My wife won't let me go.
I'm glad.
I've been on
We
my
want to
death-
keep you
I've
here.
been on my deathbed 3 times. God's not ready for me.
No, he's
not.
not.
I haven't annoyed enough people. I'm working on it.
But just that whole process, you need somebody that you trust. You need somebody to handhold. You can't pick up the phone and call 1-800-XYZ.
Right.
And so to have a presence, to be able to talk to someone and meet with someone face to face or over a Zoom and have that available. And I have a team behind me, and they're wonderful, and they know all of my clients. I know their likes, their dislikes. Even coming originally from Connecticut, I'm a big Red Sox fan. I even love my Yankee fan clients.
All right. I was just going to say, I still like you, even though you're a Red Sox fan. You're not the first Red Sox fan that came in here. But
I'm a Giant fan.
okay.
How's that?
I'm not big into sports,
Okay.
but a Brooklyn boy,
Okay.
definitely a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
That's probably the only sport I watch is some baseball, here and there. I'm not big into. I really don't have time. I built the company around entertainment. That's more my style.
Okay.
So, shows and plays and stuff, that was my thing. Amusement parks, can't do them many as I used to. But it's interesting because you mentioned the long-term care thing. And I was blessed because my mom had long-term care. And I took her for 4 years, but I had the help of long-term care.
Yeah.
Okay? But I never knew that it was a write-off of some sort.
For businesses. So the tax code is different. If you're an S corp, it's a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage, and if you're a C corp, it's another dollar amount or dollar percentage. And you can do for yourself, and you can do for your employees. I mean, that's just one small example
Right.
of some of the things that you can do.
And again, and I tell people this all the time, sometimes we have to step outside our comfort zone and talk to somebody. But I get what you're saying because it really just takes a long time to build a relationship.
It does. And not every advisor is right for the right person. I might be the perfect fit for someone, and I might not be a good fit for someone else. So it is really important to talk to different people, to talk to different advisors, and find your comfort level. Because
So,
that's the most important thing.
okay, so you already told me who your clientele basically is.
Right.
You've been around this in a long time. Have you seen a lot of changes in the industry?
I have. I have. You used to have back in the day the stockbroker, right? And then you have the insurance agent. And it's important because both of those areas have married now. So you're looking at the right hand and left hand working together to be a little bit more tax efficient. People are feeling a little bit more comfortable investing into the market, being able to buy things. And obviously through the internet, it could be a blessing or a curse. And you can't chase returns, but you can see where different stocks are, at what dollar amounts, and there are things out there that you can educate yourself with.
I educate myself on scratch-off lottery tickets. I'm way ahead of the game on them, ironically enough, but I can't get one number on Powerball. I don't get it.
And maybe you don't need to take on as much risk as you think you do. Maybe you just can get a fair, slow and steady wins the race average rate of return, and it pulls some of the volatility out of the portfolio or out of your market.
I guess that would make the idea of seeing how much liquidity you have.
Liquidity is very important. So that's the other thing I worry about, because sometimes advisors take people's money and they put them in products that they can't pull out to have liquidity. So you have to build different buckets of money, like a today bucket, a tomorrow bucket, and a down the road bucket. And those all also have to be tax efficient. And back in the day when we were told to save for retirement, it was pre-taxed, and 401ks and all that are great, and IRAs, but let's look at where tax rates are. Back then we had 32 different tax rates. Then they, slimmed it down and we have a smaller amount. But taxes in retirement, I do not believe are going to be less than they are in our working years. So having things like a Roth IRA or doing a Roth conversion or having a 401k with a Roth option on it is really important. And again, working with your tax team or your CPA to figure out where that sweet spot is as to what you can do to save money versus putting money away for retirement, pre-tax and after tax. There's a formula to use.
You are like the primary care physician. I have because I had a triple bypass, I had 2 strokes last year, and I have a lung illness. So I have medicines coming from this one, stuff coming from this one, stuff coming from this one, and I used to manage it all myself until I couldn't manage it anymore. So now I got a primary who then manages all these things for me.
Correct.
So it gets done properly.
Correct. Absolutely.
And that's
a good
basically
analogy. Yeah.
Well, that's because it's the analogy I lived in. Just saying. And I just kind of learned it recently. And what you do is so important. And what I learned later in life for me is that start now, even if it's
a little bit.
Right. And to deal with, here's the part of the problem. Somebody who would deal with you won't call you because they don't think they have enough.
Correct.
Okay?
And some advisors have minimums.
Right, and that's terrible.
It is. You need to be able to help everybody.
Right, because the truth of the matter is, if you help a business now that makes $20,000 a year, God willing, it'll be making 90,000 the next year.
Correct.
And everybody's going to make more money.
Correct.
So I totally get that. All right, so I decide, I have a small business. I decide that I can't control this stuff anymore. I give you a call. What's the first step?
First step, you come in and we meet and we talk. Just overall, what are your goals? What are you looking for? What are you frustrated? What are you not spending time on? And I take it from there and figure out what we tackle first. You can't, my mom used to say Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't tackle everything at once. And people need to be able to digest those pieces and understand those pieces. And I actually can put a financial plan together or an Excel spreadsheet, and we take it from there and we just start to tackle it and go piece by piece. It's just like building a house, right? You start with your foundation.
It's interesting because I always try to relate things to what I go through. So, I don't know, 42, 52, but when I was in my 50s, I found out, after my heart attack actually, so I was in my 60s, I found out that I was an empath. And so I get all these feelings coming into me. So I had to learn to compartmentalize to get things accomplished. Otherwise, you can't. And you have to do the same thing in what you do. As a business owner, we have to have someone who can teach us to compartmentalize the things, because otherwise we're all over the place.
Right.
And that means nothing gets done.
Right. But I also feel like I speak their language because my husband and I started a business 25 years ago. I managed the business. He did the work in the business. And I've learned, right? So I know what the frustrations are. I know where things are. And no business owner likes to pay taxes, right? They all want to pay the least amount of taxes. So, how do you take advantage of things? And also the biggest mistake I see, which I think is really important that I have to say, is please make sure you take a paycheck and you do something. Because if you're not, or one spouse is getting paid and the other spouse isn't, it's going to affect your Social Security down the road. And sometimes people say, well, Social Security won't be around then. But you really have to take some type of draw or some type of income, because otherwise when you do go to retire and you haven't saved, and maybe your asset is the business, we have to go down and sell it at that point. But you really need to know and start to build out what those income streams are going to be in
My
retirement.
Social Security check, because I'm there,
Right.
Is a blessing.
Right.
And I don't really need it, but it's a blessing because I get to use it for things that I didn't use before.
Correct.
And I have the time at this stage of my life, thank God, that I use it. Now, I owned a business my whole life. I've always been an entrepreneur. Or not own a business, but sometimes I was in real estate. And thank God I knew, or at least had a little bit of an idea, that when you're an entrepreneur or a 1099, your Social Security check's never going to be like someone who's worked a W-2.
Correct.
So I had that planned in my mind at a point in time. But we're getting to the top of time. How do people find you? You have a website?
I do. It's turnkeyfinancialpartners.com. You
phone
can
number?
reach out, 772-775-4041.
Everybody, I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. Use a professional. If you don't, I'm telling you, it's going to cost you more in the long run, and it's going to at least be 10 times more frustration. Liz, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Everybody, use a professional. We'll have a great day, and we'll be right back.